gonna like crinkle against the wall.
Well, I'll rip out the tabs.
Oh, is this too far?
I'm gonna rip out the tabs.
What is that judgmental? Yeah, I'm gonna take out. Welcome to episode 3. Today we are doing Book Club, chapters 13 through 16, House of Hollow by Krystal Sutherland. So,
yes.
Yeah.
I don't have as many notes this time, so hopefully we won't
as I just said, lots to cover.
Talk so much. I mean, we had a lot to cover.
Well,
but
to be fair, we did have
to.
But
we talked for like an hour about the first 5 chapters.
We talked for almost like an hour and a half, remember? Because I stopped us and I was like, you guys, it's been like a fucking hour and a half.
Yeah. But
and we were on page 40.
But a lot happens in the beginning of a book. You got the setting, you got character development, you got the whole mystery unfolding. I feel like that's not unexpected for the beginning of the book to take a little bit.
No, it's legit. We just bit off more than we could chew by deciding to do half the book in one podcast.
Yeah, we didn't really discuss it beforehand. We were just like, let's just go into the podcast.
I enjoyed that, though. I really enjoyed, that's why we haven't really talked about this either. I liked that, first time experience of, your thoughts and then the ideas that made me have that I hadn't had before. So...
Yeah, it was all very organic. We're kind of, learning things in real time and putting pieces together.
Yeah.
Which is fun, yeah. But we really haven't we haven't discussed what we're going to talk about today, so...
No. Well, I didn't feel like we really needed to.
We're just doing last chapters.
Yeah, because it's a shorter section.
Yeah. So everyone following along with us, I know that there are some of you that have already finished the book because it's so good. And we're jealous. But thanks for following along with us. We're obviously still new to this, trying to figure out the best way to go about things. And going forward, we'll probably do polls and stuff to get your feedback about page breakdown, pacing. Yeah.
All of that stuff. And which books we're going to be reading. So at the end of this video, actually, we're going to give 5 options of what our next book is going to be. Each of us picked one, and then we kind of debated on the other 2. And then we will take your input on which book we should actually read, because let's be real, I can't decide. Yeah, there's no way I can pick only one. Narrowing it down to 5 was painful.
But the good news is that we get to pick titles every single month. So but we all have our side bitches, our side books that we're Do we not? Rose has 5 probably. Steph's sneaky with hers.
I'm not currently reading any books other than this one.
Because I never know. All of a sudden you're just oh yeah, I read this, or I just finished this yesterday, and you've never mentioned it.
Well, now you just have to follow us on Storygraph, and we need to update it with our current reads. Mm-hmm. I like that Storygraph will keep track of so many stats for you, including pages read per day, if you update it. So it was more for me trying to see all of what Storygraph could do, because I love the graph feature and all of the analytics it does. So I try to keep up with it.
Sense.
Me too. I really like the mood graph.
I really like the fiction.
To see it's a mood graph that graphs out the type of books that you read based on your mood or the mood of the book.
Okay, that's cool. Hold up.
I know I need to be more interactive with that.
It's really
cool.
It's
better with just social media stuff.
This is the mood graph.
Look at that. That's cool.
And then I have this really great. So there's also this pacing graph. But I like this fiction versus nonfiction graph that I have here. That is awesome. Obviously,
does that say just fantasy? That's all you read?
No.
Only fantasy.
It says I only read fiction.
Yeah. Just fiction. Just fiction.
Yeah.
She's I can't even deny it. That's exactly what it says.
But anyway, this is Storygraph. We use this instead of Goodreads. and it provides so many good analytics. You could do buddy reads. You can separate it based on like time periods for your analytics, or for the whole year, or for all time. I really enjoy it. You can find these links to our personal Storygraphs on our link tree, and it is free to use. So.
And I was just going to say, Storygraph people, if you want to sponsor us, we are actively receiving sponsors. So
yeah, or if you want to just like upgrade my account to the pro version for free, like that would be awesome too. Like that'd be cool.
Yeah.
We'll take it. Whatever,
yeah,
whatever you want to throw our way.
We'll take what we can get.
You guys look.
For this section.
That's so pretty.
God.
She's learning.
But
And
your next
how
step
does it
is
feel?
to make them not stick out so far, because then when you put it on a bookshelf, all those little tabs are gonna like crinkle against the wall.
Well, I'll rip out the tabs.
Is this too far?
I'm gonna rip them too far.
What is that judgmental? Yeah, I'm gonna take out the tabs.
That's not bad
I don't want
stuff.
that shit.
But then what happens when you like go back and you're like, remember that one scene and I felt so emotional, and then you just like open it up and you're on that tab and it's
That's
already
what the highlighting and underlining is for.
But then you have to flip through every page to find it.
That's fine. I like doing things the hard way.
Okay, should we get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay.
Let's
Chapter
do it.
13.
So we're on page 144. 144. So where we left off last week was when they have gone back into the apartment. It is the three sisters and Tyler. And they're digging through looking for Gray, as they have been doing this whole time. They're looking for Gray. And then Iris feels Gray, feels her presence, calls out to her, and then Gray appears. It says, a girl dressed in white, her fingertips dripping blood. Oh my God, I whispered. Gray? My oldest sister looked up at me. Her eyes were black, and her white hair hung in filthy clumps around her face. Run, she said. She tried to take a step toward me, but sank heavily to her knees. He's coming. And that's where we stopped.
Yeah.
Also, I love that there's like a siren behind
my
ear. It really like added to
like the urgency, like woo.
Dripping blood.
Yes. I just made a note on 145 that not Vivi. Gray needed to be restrained by multiple people because she just wasn't, she didn't want to go to the hospital.
And that she actually fought her sisters off as well. It says that, I believe.
Yeah, it said for Iris there was still a fizzy string of pain where she'd scratched my cheek, my neck, my arms as I helped Vivi and Tyler hold her down in the back of the taxi.
She not only fought against the emergency personnel, but her sisters as well. So I think that really speaks about how intense she was, like, toward fighting her way out.
The state she was in,
Yeah. We were all covered in scratches and bite marks and blood by the time doctors and nurses and security came rushing over to help restrain her.
Medical personnel obviously don't believe her that she's from this fairy tale place with some fairy tale monster chasing her. So they think that she's just hallucinating and in some mental state where she's making all of this up. So they restrain her to her hospital bed.
Then the next thing that I noted after that is actually to do with Iris, when they're talking about the creepy neighbor.
Yeah, same.
And then this part right here where it says, it had made me angry, the look he'd given her. It had filled my stomach with blood and bile. The neighbor slipped in the bathtub that night, split his skull on the faucet, and spent the next week liquefying. His was the body I'd smelled before the dead man in Gray's apartment. I wondered for a long time after he died if my hatred of him had cursed him to death.
Yeah, I marked that as well. In my notes I wrote, did Iris kill their neighbor? Because she has these powers that she doesn't understand. Did you just hear Maya?
Yeah.
Hi.
She's got something to say too.
So yeah, she's got these powers she doesn't understand, and so now she's actually wondering if her hatred for him was what actually made him die in his apartment and then not be found for days, which is crazy.
Right.
Yeah. And she even goes on to say, part of me was horrified at the thought, part of me hoped it was true. So, like, she's still right there, too. She's constantly, throughout what we've read so far, she's constantly struggling with knowing there's something going on with her, but not wanting it to be true. That's something that's always happened with
also,
her.
I think this hints toward her darker nature that she is trying to hide. Like, she's trying to be normal, and she keeps pointing out how Gray and Vivi have this, like, dark side, but then she is kind of not upset with the fact that she might have killed this man, which points toward the fact that, like, she has this darker nature as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I do find it interesting how much Krystal Sutherland brings, like, sexual assault into this story, or just, like, the feelings of not being safe, or, like, because right before the paragraph I read, she's talking about, like, men had begun catcalling me as I walked home from school in the afternoons, but that was my burden to bear. Seeing it done to my mother was something else. So she's just constantly talking about how often this is happening. It's actually, like, a huge part of the story. Which,
and Iris was 13 when she mentioned that she was 13 at the time when men started catcalling her. And yeah, they mentioned that she's super beautiful, like, even at a young age, but I don't think that's an excuse, really, for men to be catcalling a 13-year-old. But it is something that is brought out a lot in the story, and it's something that, like, unfortunately is true.
Yeah, I just find it interesting because it's like, I think about what other stories would be like if the reality of what the daily lives of women was really portrayed in every single story. I feel like every story that had female lead characters would have stuff like this in it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of people choose to cut that kind of stuff out or not focus on it, but this is, like, an absolute reality, and I just find it interesting that Krystal Sutherland made it such an important part. I don't want to say important, but made it such a big part of the story. And then, okay, so on page 150, do you guys have anything before 150?
I do not.
I have something on 150. I wonder if
is it the last line before the break? It's not that they don't get along, it's that Kate hates her.
It's actually the one right before that where she's talking about, or where Tyler is saying that Gray told him that she's afraid of her father.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Why was Gray afraid of their father, though? Because Gray makes such a big deal about how she is the thing in the woods.
She's the thing to be afraid of.
She's the weirdo.
Yeah, so that's why I marked that, because she's always been...
Yeah, she's the top dog, right?
I've always had the impression that she wasn't really afraid of anything, because, as you said, she's the thing to be afraid of. So when this was mentioned,
but when they were younger, they talk about how he put them all in the car and he was going to drive them over the cliff or whatever. Yeah. And Gray's the one who, like, willed him to stop.
Yeah, Gray took care of it. So, like...
Right. And then he killed himself later that day, so we don't know if she willed him to do that.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, that he might have killed himself because he was losing his, like, mental stability. Or he might have killed himself because Gray finally had enough and was like, I'm not letting you hurt me or my sisters. And then, like, did her mind power trick thing to make him kill himself.
Right. And maybe that's when she really started to realize her own powers. So before that, she was kind of afraid of him because he was, like, she didn't know what he was going to do to them. But then ultimately she took care of it. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. But even so, when I get what you're saying, but I also feel that even before then she was strong because she was the one that carried her sisters out of the halfway. Like, that takes guts to do that, and I don't know. So it still was weird to me enough to want to mark it and see what comes of it, I guess.
True. Oh my god, I just had a maybe epiphany.
What?
Do we think the Bull Skull Man is their father? Because they made it clear that he's dead.
I kind of thought about that, like, a few seconds ago. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know.
Huh.
Why? Like,
wonder.
Why would it be him? Like, it could be. But I can't figure out like why it would be him. But it would be a cool plot twist if it were, which means it might be.
Yeah. I don't know. I just kind of got that vibe right now.
What did you want to talk about on 150 about Kate hating Gray?
Well, just that Iris said that it's not that they don't get along, it's that Kate hates her. And then she goes on to talk a little bit about how when they first got back, or, a little while after they got back, their mom didn't want anything. Like, she wasn't interested in knowing what happened to them. And then she says on 151, then suddenly overnight, she developed this burning desire to know exactly. And then Kate kind of became obsessed with finding out what happened. So I feel like something caused her to shift from, not wanting to know to like being obsessed with finding out.
I think this goes back to whatever was whispered in her ear by Gray that day that caused that switch to flip, that we still don't know what was said.
Yeah, indeed. So there's something there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, did you guys mark anything before 153? So in 153, I marked how Iris said, okay, I went to the bathroom and vomited. I thought of Justine Kahn and how I could never unleash my sister on her, no matter how mean she became, because Justine was just a girl and my sister was something more, something crueler, the thing in the dark. So here, Iris is starting to talk about that darkness inside Gray. I know you don't think that she's all bad. I don't think any of us think she's all bad, but there is something dark inside her.
And Iris knows it, which I think is important as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I marked, again, right before that section. I kind of marked that section with this, though. That came about because Gray was threatening Kate, saying, if you hurt her in regard to Iris, if you so much as harm a single hair on her head, I will come back here and I will kill you. So it's once again protecting her sisters.
And it's not just an idle threat. I think some angsty teens will say that to their parents, and it's something that they shouldn't say, but it's also not something that they will really follow through with. But with Gray, like, Iris knows 100%.
She means it.
She means it. So obviously the very first page of 14 is a big deal. Page 156, when she starts to feel movement under the scar and scratches it and finds ants moving under the scar, and which ties into the flower that was growing out of Vivi's arm and the flowers that were growing on all of these people. And we find out later what this is, but we find it out in this section that the flowers and the leaves and the ants, all from the halfway, are actually like inside of them and trying to like consume them from the inside out, which is really weird and crazy.
I marked on 157. I mentioned it in last week's podcast too, about the number 3. Remember with like 3 stillborns and stuff. But again, they mentioned 3 ants,
and it there's more.
It implies that there could have been more. But she specifically stops at 3rd.
I'm jumping.
And I have more notes later on.
3 cuts.
3 cuts. Tyler had no heartbeat for 3 minutes on page 189.
3 minutes.
There's a lot of 3s.
He had 3% battery left on his phone.
There's a lot of 3s that comes up.
A lot of 3s.
It's so many 3s.
And they're very random things as well. Like, he bought 3 chargers when he went to the store. Like, it's very weird.
Yeah, that's true.
It's very weird.
Who buys
but
3 chargers?
Specifically calls out 3. Like, I know I'm hopping ahead, but on page 189, it does it a lot, so.
Yeah, no, 189, I had the comment of 3 chargers, 3 minutes,
all
3%
on the same page.
Battery.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot, so there's obviously something big with that.
Yeah.
And you can dive even further. That's 3 things on 1 page. That went too far.
I mean, maybe not, though. I don't know.
I think it went too far. Let me take some more caffeine.
Is that what you need? So on 157, I just wanted to point out that when Iris is looking in the mirror, she said, the light wasn't kind to my features. It scrubbed the color from my complexion, carved any softness from my bones. I was a demon in this light, a monster. I couldn't look myself in the eyes without feeling a snap of fear. I thought that was interesting.
I love the wording used, but also like the imagery of, I feel like I use the word imagery too much, but like her accepting herself as a demon, I guess, or acknowledging it, because throughout this, her father and everyone else kind of thinks that they are demonic or witches or something like that.
She knows it's there.
Yeah. I don't think you're using... Go ahead.
After you.
I was just gonna say, I don't think you're using the word imagery too much. I feel like this book is really just full of imagery, and I feel like that's like almost a very important part.
And I know that we've said
it
multiple times, but it's grotesque and gorgeous at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, the language for sure.
I mean, look at this. This is how each chapter starts, with this beautiful flowers, but then there's, what is this, like a drop of blood?
And then once you read the book, you know that these flowers are around like blood and death, and they smell disgusting, but they look so pretty.
They look pretty.
What were you gonna say?
Just that Rose had said something about Iris like embracing or acknowledging the darkness in her, but I don't think she is, because she says, don't look at her. I think she's like terrified of the darkness within. Like she knows it's there, and she knows that she could tap into it and use it, but there's something about it that she just like isn't ready to do that. She isn't ready to like go there.
Yeah, so I think she sees it, but she's hiding from it, I guess. And then my next thing is on 163, when the creepy horn man, strikes again in the hospital. So he's there. So, and Gray somehow broke out of her restraints and killed the guard, which at first I was like, what the fuck? She killed this policeman. But then we find out that it wasn't a policeman, and he was actually like possessed or some shit with a halfway spirit or whatever the fuck it is. Like, I don't know.
Halfway or something.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. I really thought it was a dream Iris was having for a minute there. I mean, I don't now. I know that it was really happening, but when I was first reading it, I was like, oh my god, because she talked about falling asleep on Tyler's shoulder and stuff like that, and then it just jumped into blood on the ground and the doctors huddled in a corner and stuff like that, and it just seems so out of place for where they were that I was like, oh, she's dreaming. And then it just kept going and going. I was like, oh,
well, she also mentioned that she thought that maybe Gray's hysteria was catching, so even Iris thought that maybe she was seeing things or imagining things. But yeah, we know now that it was all true.
Yeah. You know what I find interesting though is that they say that the horn man has a gun, and I just find that very interesting that like that's his weapon of choice, like this creature from the halfway or beyond. I don't know, I just find it strange that he carries a gun.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like he should have some pitchfork made from rotten wood or something.
Or I don't know, just like
something ancient and like mystical.
It just seems strange to me that a gun is his weapon of choice. I don't know if there's any significance there, but it just sticks out to me.
That is interesting. So I did want to mention, so before we hop ahead, on 163 is when this all happens. The horn man comes in. But the way that it's worded, I just want to read this little paragraph real quick. So, then he was there, just as she said he would be. I knew him from his silhouette, even if I couldn't see his face. The man from Gray's burned-out apartment. Tall and thin, the skull of a dead bull worn over his face. The stench of him palmed my face, driving splinters of rot and damp and smoke into my nose. A flicker of broken memories skipped across the surface of my thoughts. A decomposing forest, a hand with a knife. 3 children warming themselves by a fireplace. 3 little girls with dark hair and blue eyes. Us. Whose house were we at? So this is like another instance of memories resurfacing in Iris, and it's brought about by that smell, which we've mentioned before, how the smell keeps bringing back those memories.
I have Gray's pep talk on 176.
I have something on 176 too. What stuck out to me is when Iris recalls how, like, originally when she said she broke her finger because Gray had broken hers, she said, like, Iris said that she broke her own finger, right? But then now she's saying that Gray is the one who said, break your finger too. And I just thought that's weird because she's usually trying to protect her sisters, but then Iris says, like, how can I make it better? And Gray tells her to break her own finger. I don't know. That seems like really dark and strange.
So then I'm starting to think, like, we thought that Iris was following her sister, like, of her own free will, which is, like, a normal thing for little sisters to do. But at this point, I'm wondering if it is, like, a learned behavior or, like, some sort of, like, almost trauma response that she was, like, trained to follow Gray because Gray is older than her and, like, put this influence and almost scared her into doing exactly what she does.
I marked down Gray's little pep talk. It's not really a pep talk, but that's how yeah, it's what I worded it as in my notes. But it says, on my way out, Gray snatched up my bruised wrists in her hands. I winced at the layered pain, hurt on hurt. Use the gifts you have been given, she said to me. No one should be able to lay a finger on you. You can bring them to their knees if that's what you want. You can make them pay.
Yeah, and I had a very similar paragraph at the beginning of 176 that says, because you're weak, because you let lesser people push you around, because you are afraid of how powerful you are and you shrink away from it. Because I won't always be around to protect you, and I know you are capable of protecting yourself because you are more like me than you realize. So, I mean, I guess it's kind of a pep talk, but it's also kind of, not.
Yeah. It was the only thing I could describe it as, honestly, for my notes. And I knew exactly what I was talking about. I think
Gray's also, like, in that, she's a little frustrated with Iris for, like, not giving in to this power or realizing the power or letting it kind of take her over or filter into her life more. Gray's like, you have it. Like, why won't you fucking use it?
Mm-hmm. Especially now, like, I think Gray realizes that she might not survive this fight that she has or this race that she's having with this horn man. And once she's gone, I think she's scared that Iris won't have protection when she's not there because she won't step into her power. So I think she's scared and frustrated and just trying to push Iris to that breaking point where she steps into that darker side within herself.
Although I guess I'm just realizing now that I think Gray told her to break her finger to prove a point.
What do you mean?
Yeah. Well, just because that paragraph that Steph read after where it says no one should be able to lay a finger on you. You can bring them to their knees if that's what you want. You can make them pay. So, like, I think if she like made Iris break her finger, she's saying, like, this is what you can do to other people. Like, people shouldn't be able to hurt you because you can do whatever you want. Like, you can make them pay.
Mm-hmm. But then after this, we get into they run away from the horned man. Gray jumps in this car and uses her persuasion to make this man drive them to an unknown location.
To Scotland.
Yeah. And this man is like, he's out of it. Like, I found it really interesting how he didn't respond to anyone. When he drove until the car literally broke down because it ran out of gas. And then he just started walking away and everybody was like, well, fuck, I don't know what's going on. Then he comes back with gas. So his mind is working enough for him to realize what happened and how to fix it to continue his goal of driving them to Scotland. But at the same time, he's so out of it that he doesn't respond to anyone or anything or any external stimuli. He doesn't pay for the gas. He doesn't do anything. His goal, drive them to their location. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I think his goal is to drive Gray there. It's not even them because, like, they won't even be in the car. They had to run after him when he left. Like, his goal is just to get Gray there. Everybody else is just along for the ride.
True. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, because they had to keep jumping in the car as he was, like, speeding off.
Yeah. So then after all this, we end up getting to their location, which is, I have marked on 182, it's this house with that's addressed to their grandmother's name. And at first I was like, at first I was like, what the fuck, their grandmother? Like, what? But then we find out that Gray used her grandmother's name as an to like alias, like a hidden identity to buy houses and safe houses or whatever.
I don't know. I want to know more about this little girl.
I do.
Like what her deal is, what her part in it is. I know they talk about her story just a little bit.
I wonder if we're going to get more.
Yeah. So we know she's been to the halfway, but how did she get there?
We know that she was there for a long period of time because we find those news clippings of when she went missing and then multiple years later when her mother died, those 2 news clippings. So we know that she was there for a long time and she didn't age while she was there because she's still a little girl.
Didn't she say, though, that she got out because Gray found her and then found the runes for, like, what are the runes that for, like, life, something, and death, and then, like, drew them in a way?
Yeah, so that's on page 201.
Yeah, you're right.
That, but the runes have to specifically be in Gray's blood or one of the sisters' blood because their blood, it has the ability to travel between the 2 worlds, which I found really interesting because that explains why Yulia Vasilik had Gray's blood on her. Because, like, Amy, you made a point of saying at the end of our last video that Gray's blood was found on Yulia. And we were like, well, what the fuck does that mean? Why was she covered in Gray's blood? But now we know that Gray used her blood in these runes to be able to get her back. So in my mind, it's actually a good thing that she was covered in Gray's blood. Like, Gray was helping her by giving her blood to her.
Yeah, but I also just wonder, it's like, how many times has Gray gone back to the halfway? Because it seems like she just keeps going back and, like, I don't know.
But why is she going back? So if she brought this little girl back, like, is her purpose traveling back and forth trying to save these people that are stuck? Like,
maybe, and that's why the Bullhorn Man is coming after her because he wants to stop her or something?
Yeah, maybe. That's what I'm thinking. Like, what if she's traveling back and forth being like this savior? Yeah.
Savior of sorts.
But then no one else knows that. She's just some weird girl painting her blood on people.
Yeah, true story. Okay, so then on 192... did you have something, Seth?
Oh, on 191, that was when Iris called her mother real quick, and Kate referred to Gray as that thing. She didn't even call her, refer to her as a person or anything. It was just that thing. She said, "Where are you? I knew I shouldn't have let you stay with that thing."
And this kind of breaks ties between Iris and her mother as well, because then Iris blocks her, deletes her from the Find Friends app, like all of those things, and like cuts ties with her completely at this point.
For sure. But then on 192, Kate says to Iris, "Don't trust her. Run. Listen to me, please. You have to run. Run. She is not..."
Yeah.
Something. I hung up and pressed the heel of my hand against my mouth to keep from sobbing. It's like, so we don't know what she is, but Kate knows.
Kate knows something. I don't know if she knows what she is, but she knows what she's not. So. And of course, Iris hangs up because suspense.
I marked something on page 200, unless you have something before that. So I don't remember who's in this. I think it's Agnes is in the kitchen. That's the little girl with, I think, is it Vivi and Tyler?
Yeah, they're hanging out. Well, Agnes and Iris are up on the roof.
Oh, that's okay. So it's Agnes and Iris here on 200. Okay, so then Iris says, "You came back, you're like us." And then Agnes says, "I'm not like you. You must understand by now that you are different. Why are you so beautiful, do you think? So hungry, so able to bend the wills of those around you. You are like the death flowers that grow rampant in your wake, lovely to look at, intoxicating even. But get too close and you will soon learn that there is something rank beneath. That's what beauty often is in nature, a warning, a disguise. Do you understand?" But so, I don't know, it's like you start to get the feeling that they are something evil.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's something very like evil and
wrong. And their beauty is to draw in victims or prey, like a Venus flytrap or something like that.
Right.
You know?
And maybe Iris isn't fully consumed by it yet. She still has like her conscience or whatever. But I mean, I feel like Gray maybe is.
Mm-hmm. And I think that has to do with the age. Like Gray was older, and Iris was still young when this happened, and she still wanted like her parents and wants to fit in with society, and was like still developing when they came back. But then,
so then the Horn Man comes back.
Again. And there's like a fight. A fight breaks out at this little apartment. And I find it important, we didn't mention it, but the reason he keeps finding them is because he has Gray's blood. He's using Gray's blood to travel back and forth.
Yeah.
And because he has her blood, he can find her anywhere, which they mention in this section. We just hadn't brought it up. But that is why he keeps finding them so quickly.
Yeah.
So he comes in, there is a struggle and a fight, and then he snatches Vivi and Gray and takes off with them. And
maybe kills Agnes. And gives Iris a concussion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Tyler might be dead too.
Yeah, might be, yeah. So now Iris is left all alone. The bottom of 203 where it says, then Vivi's screams abruptly stopped midway, fizzling out like hot metal plunged into water. So in my mind, they're running and then they're in the halfway. Like he transported into the halfway because she turns around the corner and they're gone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So he has taken them. And now Iris is standing there.
Yeah. Well, now she's beating down the door of every house on the street. And the cops are coming, I'm assuming, because she says she hears sirens. So, they're going to think she's insane again, like they did with Gray. Like, I don't see this playing out well with her going to the police. I don't think it's going to end well for her. Yeah.
No, not at all.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just know that I'm excited to read it, and I can't wait to find out.
We keep leaving off on these cliffhanger of chapters. It's not your fault. How would you know? But it's funny that
well, that's because this whole book is just one big cliffhanger.
Yeah, it is crazy. I don't want to wait a whole week before we talk again.
Well, I feel like everyone's already finished it except us. I feel like we're the only ones who haven't finished it.
I know, right?
That's why I'm saying we could upload like 2 this week because everybody else already finished it, right?
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Yeah, I don't know, but that's where we're at. Krystal Sutherland.
That's where we're at. Krystal Sutherland.
Dude.
Yep.
I haven't read her other book, Chemical Hearts. I did add it to my TBR, but the synopsis didn't drag me in as much as this one did. So I'm not sure if I'm going to read that one or not, or just wait for her to write another one.
Well, I haven't read the synopsis of this one either. There's 2 on the back of this book.
What's the one that...
A semi-definitive list of worst nightmares. It kind of like looks like this one in a way.
So, okay. So the first chapter of Chemical Hearts is at the back of this book. So you could always see if you can get into it. Oh no, the first 2 chapters.
That's true. Maybe I'll
first 3
give
chapters.
that a little perusal.
And the first chapter.
Oh, and the first couple chapters of the other book are in here too.
What are you trying to do? Make me buy all your books or something?
That's exactly what she's trying to do. That's a good strategy right there.
Yep.
Well, we'll see. I really enjoyed the writing style and the imagery again and the vocabulary. Like, I've loved it so far. So I might have to give her other books a read. Or I'll just buy them and they'll sit on this shelf like all these others.
Either way.
Yeah. Do we want to announce the 5 books that we are thinking to put? And where will that poll be?
I haven't decided
on
yet.
our IG, right?
Yeah, so I was going to put it on our IG, but then I was also going to drop it in our Discord, so I might use a third-party polling system so that it polls from both places. I haven't really decided yet, but yeah, just stay on our socials, on our Instagram, and I'll post it there whenever I decide how we're going to do that. So the first one is The Night and Its Moon by Piper CJ. So the description here. Farley is just an orphanage. At least that's what the church would have the people believe. But beautiful orphans Knox and Faye touched Amaris no better. They are commodities for sale, available for purchase by the highest bidder. So when the madam of a notorious brothel in a far-off city offers a king's ransom to purchase Amaris, Knox ends up taking her place, while Amaris is drawn away to the mountains, home of mysterious assassins. Even as they take up new lives and identities, Knox and Amaris never forget one thing. They will stop at nothing to reunite, but the threat of war looms overhead, and the two are inevitably swept into a conflict between human and fae, magic and mundane. With strange new alliances, untested powers, and a bond that neither time nor distance could possibly break, the fate of the realms lies in the hands of two orphans, in the love they hold for one another. So, this is kind of a controversial book. Piper CJ is relatively popular on TikTok, and this was released recently. It is an LGBTQ fantasy. And we've been talking with Piper CJ a little bit. We might be able to get her on the pod, maybe, if we do read this. She is also making another edition, kind of similar to what happened with Atlas 6. This version was not edited as well as it could have been. She is an independent author, didn't really have the facilities to have it, like, she didn't go to a publishing house and, like, didn't have as much money as some others do to go into the publication process. But now that it has been a little more popular, she is making another version that is going to be edited and changed a little bit.
Yeah. We have some mixed feelings about this one.
Yeah,
I have mixed feelings about this one, for sure.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I just, so for those of you who don't know, somebody had posted a review on Goodreads that wasn't a good review, and she was upset about it, and basically kind of like went after the person, and from what I understand had kind of told everyone, like, tell them why their review is wrong, like, I don't want to say that she incited online bullying, because I just don't know the extent of it, but I was shown some of what had happened. And then she, a lot of people were really upset about what she'd done, and so she, made a huge apology and just said that she's young and she, she'll do better, and she realizes that Goodreads isn't a place for authors. But as somebody who's also a writer, I can't get over, like, everyone's entitled to their own opinion of your work once you release it out there. It's just something that comes with the territory of being an artist or creator. And you just that not everyone's going to love your product, and to, like, go after somebody for having their own opinion of your work is just, I just think it's just like a lack of character. I don't know. And she said that she's young and she didn't know, but she's like 30, and I just think that, like, better. So I have kind of mixed feelings about reading this for that reason. And then also, from my understanding, it seems like some of the book just, like, it almost wasn't even proofread. So just seems like it was kind of like rushed to get published. And I don't know, that might be difficult for me to read as well. But, if everyone's interested in it, I've heard people love the world that she built, and that the characters are good characters, and, that it's a good story overall. So if people want to read it, like, I'll definitely read it, and I'll come into it with an open mind. But that's just where I'm at right now.
Also, if we end up not reading this version, because there is another version coming out, Amy, if the editing or the grammatical errors that may or may not be in it bother you, we could always wait until the new version comes out as well and see how that does, or how we feel about that one as well.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so...
And as Rose mentioned, we've been talking with her a little bit, so maybe it's something that we'd be more interested to get into later if we are able to have her on the podcast at some point. Maybe that's a better time to do it, but obviously if people want to read it now, we will read it now.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to get Piper's,
see how the poll goes.
Take on the whole thing and just hear it from her own mouth, everything that transpired, so we'll see.
Yeah. All right, so then our next one is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. Amy, this was your pick, correct? You want to talk about it a little bit?
This is my pick. So I actually, you'll have to read the synopsis for me because I can't, it's too small for me to read.
Okay.
But I am a huge fan of The Guest List. That's one of my favorite mystery thrillers that I've read in a long time. It got me out of a reading slump. And just from the first page, I was like into it. And I thought it was really well written, great character development, and kept me guessing the whole time. And I just thought it was really fun. So when I saw that Paris Apartment came out, it looks like it's kind of written in a similar style with like the multi-character perspective, which I didn't really think I liked until I read The Guest List. And then I loved the way that she did that. So I hope that this one is just as good, if not better.
All right. See, Jess needs a fresh start. She's broken alone, and she's just left her job under less than ideal circumstances. Her half-brother Ben didn't sound thrilled when she asked if she could crash with him for a bit, but he didn't say no, and surely everything will look better from Paris. Only when she shows up to find a very nice apartment, could Ben really have afforded this? He's not there. The longer Ben stays missing, the more Jess starts to dig into her brother's situation, and the more questions she has. Ben's neighbors are an eclectic bunch and not particularly friendly. Jess may have come to Paris to escape her past, but it's starting to look like it's Ben's future that's in question. The socialite, the nice guy, the alcoholic, the girl on the verge, the concierge. Everyone's a neighbor, everyone's a suspect, and everyone knows something they're not telling.
I also like Lucy Foley, so I'm interested in this. And like I mentioned in our introductions, I do enjoy mysteries, so if this is one that people want us to read, I will be excited to read. I'm going to be excited to read any of the 5, honestly. But I also loved The Guest List, Amy, so I'd be interested.
I haven't read any Lucy Foley, and I know that you both love her, so I doubt I would be disappointed if we read it. All right, so next we have Mary Jane.
Which you're gonna have to read long. It for me as well. But I chose it because it's like a coming of age story. It's just a regular fiction. Instead, in case we wanted to get away from mysteries and fantasy, and it just seems like a sweet coming of age story set in the 70s, and it just sounds. I don't know. I've been drawn to it for a while. It's been on my shelf for a while, so. That's why I chose it.
All right, so for this synopsis. In 1970s Baltimore, 14-year-old Mary Jane loves cooking with her mother, singing in her church choir, and enjoying her family's subscription to the Broadway Show Tunes of the Month record club. Shy, quiet, and bookish, she's glad when she lands a summer job as a nanny for the daughter of a local doctor. A respectable job, Mary Jane's mother says, in a respectable house. The house may look respectable on the outside, but inside it's a literal and figurative mess. Clutter on every surface, impeachment, now more than ever, bumper stickers on the doors, cereal and takeout for dinner. And even more troublesome, were Mary Jane's mother to know, which she does not, the doctor is a psychiatrist who has cleared his summer for one important job, helping a famous rock star dry out. A week after Mary Jane starts, the rock star and his movie star wife move in. Over the course of the summer, Mary Jane introduces her new household to crisply ironed clothes and a family dinner schedule, and has a front row seat to a liberal world of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, not to mention group therapy. Caught between the lifestyle she's always known and the future she's only just realized is possible, Mary Jane will arrive at September with a new idea about what she wants out of life and what kind of person she's going to be.
Nice. Gives me like Almost Famous vibes, which is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. In fact, in the description, It says Almost Famous meets Daisy Jones
there you
and the Six. Which just
same. I mean, I'm a huge classic rock fan and just like that whole era. So, if it's anything like Almost Famous, I'm in.
All right, so we got The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. I don't really know a huge amount about this book, but it's been on my TBR and I've seen people reviewing it and it looked really good.
I've been wanting to read N.K. Jemisin for a while. And I believe this is a standalone where normally she does like trilogies.
I think so, yeah. Pretty sure this is the standalone. If it's not, I'm going to get myself into a trilogy on accident if we read this, which happens. In Manhattan, a young grad student gets off the train and realizes he doesn't remember who he is, where he's from, or even his own name. But he can sense the beating heart of the city, see its history, and feel its power. In the Bronx, a Lenop gallery director discovers strange graffiti scattered throughout the city. So beautiful and powerful, it's as if the paint is literally calling to her. In Brooklyn, a politician and mother finds she can hear the songs of her city pulsing to the beat of her Louis Vuitton heels. And they're not the only ones. Every great city has a soul. Some are ancient as myths, and others are as new and destructive as children. New York, she's got 6.
And N.K. Jemisin has won. I can't read it. It says on there, doesn't it? Like she's
3
won a bunch
times
of Hugo
Award-winning and New York Times
amazing.
best-selling author N.K. Jemisin.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's probably good. And then our last one is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. So this one is my pick. I have heard about this one on Book Talk. Lauren's Little Library is a book talker that I follow almost religiously. I love her. She's awesome. Lauren's Little Library, if you see this, hi. Anyway, she said this is one of her favorite books. Like, it might be her new, like, all-time favorite. So let's see. The synopsis of this is: on the day Oliver Marks is released from jail, the man who put him there is waiting at the door. Detective Colburn wants to know the truth, and after 10 years, Oliver is finally ready to tell it. A decade ago, Oliver is of 7 young Shakespearean actors at Delacour Classical Conservatory, a place of keen ambition and fierce competition. In this secluded world of firelight and leather-bound books, Oliver and his friends play the same roles on stage and off. Hero, villain, tyrant, temptress. Ingenue? I don't know how to say that.
Ingenue.
I don't know how to say that. Ingenue. I grew up in cornfields of Pennsylvania, people. I don't know these words.
Okay.
All right. Oliver and his friends play the same roles on stage and off. Hero, villain, tyrant, temptress, ingenue, extras. But in their 4th and final year, good-natured rivalries turn ugly, and on opening night, real violence invades the students' world of make-believe. In the morning, the 4th years find themselves facing their very own tragedy, and their greatest acting challenge yet, convincing the police, each other, and themselves that they are all innocent.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's a little mystery in, like, Shakespearean setting. Like, I've been told by many people that this is an amazing book. So
yeah, sounds good.
I'm excited to read any of these, honestly. I want to get the poll out there so we know what we're diving into.
Yeah, I'm also excited.
And we're going to try to, I know this one has, I think, like 3 mysteries on it or something, but we'll try to keep the options diverse as far as genre goes. But sometimes it might just happen like this where we're all kind of like thinking about books that fall into the same genre, so.
Which was not intentional. I was just trying to not give a fantasy pick because almost all of my TBR is fantasy or romance. So I was trying to get something different, and then it turned out we all ended up going mystery route. So
I know. That's okay. I have some fiction in my pocket for next month.
Nice. All right.
The next month, whatever.
And also, if you noticed, all of our authors are female or NB. So we're kind of trying to go around that route. Females in publication have always struggled, especially in like adult fantasy, sci-fi, like things like that. So we are trying to promote more of them. And also we're trying to be diverse within that as well, to get some like LGBTQ, some BIPOC authors, some indie authors, like mix it up a bit. So
yeah, we'll try to keep it as diverse as possible.
We are going to struggle because even though we try to be diverse, we don't have the same experiences as those that are different from us. So if you have ideas or options of how we can be more inclusive, don't be scared to let us know, because we're 100% open to that. And I know that I have some unintentional bias just based on my life and how the world acts toward me, because I'm not as different as other people.
Well, we can only come at it from the white woman perspective.
Exactly.
Because that's all we know.
But if you are a person that can give me a different perspective, I am 100% down to hear it. And I am open to that. And I would love to read more diverse things. And to be able to read more diverse things, you have to be open to more diverse authors. So that's just how it works.
Totally. Right. Yeah, we're always up for recommendations. And, you know, we do want to have more guests on the show. So anyone out there, like if we are reading an author that's a woman of color or a person of color, you know, we would love to have like a guest come on that could maybe offer us a different perspective or a different take on what it is that we're reading. So
agreed.
Just all those things. We just want more interaction with anyone who's following along with us, and just kind of build a community here.
Yeah, okay. Sure. Well, those are our 5 picks for next month. We will set up a poll. We have discussed chapters 13 through 16 of House of Hollow by Krystal Sutherland. Next week, we will finish House of Hollow by Krystal Sutherland. And then following that, we will do a book talk. And that should hopefully give everybody a chance, if they want to purchase our next month's read or get it from their library, they can, and follow along with us as we read it, whichever book that may be.
Yep. Rock and roll.
Yeah. All right. Well, bye, guys.
Bye, guys. See ya.